Hi, my name is Sarah, and a few weeks back, I discovered I had two sisters I knew nothing about. All my life, I thought I had a single twin sister. We were adopted by our parents when we were only babies. Recently, I found out that, in fact, we were actually quadruplets, and we had two other siblings out there. My sister Laura was always kind of a mess. She tried to find the easiest way to get anything she wanted, even if it wasn't nice or even legal. When we were growing up, she used to steal candies and small toys from shops. I didn't tattle on her because I didn't want her to get in trouble, but now I wish I had. You see, Laura is currently in jail. She messed up many times and it eventually caught up with her. Maybe if I had told my parents about her behavior, they could have straightened her up. I've always loved fashion and decided in high school I wanted to make a living from it. I began working as a designer after graduating from college, and soon after set up a small business to sell my outfits. Luckily, it was a huge success from the get-go, and soon I could invest more money into the business. By now, I have several stores and have even been featured in several fashion shows. I don't visit Laura in jail, but I try to help her out. I pay for her lawyer and will try to get her a good job when she gets out if she promises to straighten her life up. I'm disappointed with her, but she's still my sister. Up until a few weeks ago, I thought she was the only sibling I had. The day that completely changed my life, I was rushing to a meeting and might have sped a bit. When I saw a police car signaling for me to pull over, I realized I was going to get a ticket. I knew I was doing something wrong, so I didn't argue when the two officers approached me and asked for my papers. They informed me that I was indeed speeding. I apologized and turned to face them and was stunned by how similar one of the policemen was to me. It was like looking into a mirror. She also noted we looked so much alike, and her coworker commented on the similarity as well. Much to our surprise, we also shared the same birthday. I was so confused, but since I knew that I had been adopted alongside my sister, it wasn't impossible that maybe I had another lost sibling out there. I was fascinated by this chance encounter and struck up a conversation. The officer, who introduced herself as Hannah, decided not to give me a ticket. Instead, we decided to meet up for lunch the following day. Clearly, both of us were curious about our similarities. We even had similar names, just like Laura and I had. We met up the following day, and we were even more stunned by how many other things we had in common. I told her I had been adopted and had a twin sister who was a screw-up. She was in jail. Hannah said she wasn't adopted, or at least not that she knew of, but also had a twin sister. She was a screw-up as well, but hadn't gotten in trouble with the law. Instead, she was homeless. Her name was Anna. Hannah had tried to help her sister many times in the past, but Anna was a troubled young woman. Hannah began having doubts about her true identity. It made no sense for her that we looked like two drops of water and weren't related at all. Maybe her parents were mine as well, or maybe the four of us had been adopted by two different families. Whatever the cause, we both wanted to know the truth. So we decided to visit her parents and ask them about it. When they saw me, they thought I was Anna, but were shocked by how good I looked. I explained that I wasn't their daughter, and we explained how we had met. Reluctantly, they finally admitted to Hannah that she was adopted. Apparently, our biological mother had given birth to all four of us, but wasn't able to raise us. She was really young and came from a low-income background, so she had decided to give us up for adoption. Unfortunately, we were separated, and two different families took us in. We couldn't believe that we had met in such a big city. It really felt like fate. Hannah and I promised to be in each other's lives. We wanted to make up for all the lost time. We decided we'd tell Laura about it when she got out of prison. She still has a year to go, and we hope we can convince her to turn her life around after that. We are also looking for Anna so we can try and find a way to get her off the streets. I promised I would get her a nice job so that she can get back on track. Maybe we can really become a family and be in each other's lives. Hannah and I have so many things in common, it's crazy. We get together 2 times a week and get along amazingly. I would have loved to grow up by her side, and I'm already starting to grow very fond of her. I hope that the 4 of us get to live far better lives after this encounter. Hannah and I are doing well, but we are not happy about our siblings suffering. It's amazing how our life changed so much in a single afternoon. We also decided to search for our biological family and try to reconnect with them as well. Wish us luck! Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out other videos on the channel.
Hi, my name is Gwen, and my story starts with the craziest announcement I have ever heard in my entire life. Do you know what it was? Gwen, sis, that's your new family. I sold you to them for $50,000. Sounds insane? You bet your ass it does. And yet, that's what my brother told me one sunny day when nothing seemed to be going wrong. Want to know how that came to happen? Let me tell you all about it. My brother Taylor has always been kind of weird, and that's putting it mildly. He's freaking nuts. Growing up with him was a total nightmare. But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button, and activate the notification bell. This will let you live 20 amazing years longer. Trust me, it works. He was the kind of guy your parents would tell you to stay away from. Well, my mom and dad couldn't say that because he was their son. My parents weren't neglectful or mean at all, mind you. They were amazing to my brother and me and tried so hard to raise us right. When it came to me, it worked. I studied really hard and behaved my best. They were really proud of me and I love them very much. Taylor, on the other hand, was always getting in trouble. He talked back to teachers and did very poorly at school. He even smoked during the breaks, in the bathroom, and was called to the headmaster's office every single day. My brother was even expelled from his school once, and my parents were really at their wits' end. You can't imagine what an annoying brat he was. Mom and Dad tried everything to get him to behave properly. They took him to a therapist, spoke to him, grounded Taylor, and so many other stuff. They didn't know how to handle him, especially when he decided to sneak out of the window in his bedroom and disappear for a few days. Imagine how worried they got about him. And Taylor wasn't any nicer with me either. He would break every single doll my parents bought me and scribbled nasty words in my school books. He would even hide my homework so I'd get in trouble. When I asked him why he did all of that, he just said that it was fun. I explained that it hurt my feelings, but he didn't really care at all. I was so glad when he moved away, believe me, but my happiness wouldn't last long. You see, when I was 17, something really bad happened. My parents had an accident, and they never returned home. They were both doctors and worked at the same hospital. It was a really rainy night, and they were super exhausted. Mom and Dad had worked an extra long shift and shouldn't have been driving. I wish they had just called a cab, but they didn't. I don't know if Dad fell asleep on the wheel or what, but I do know I never saw them again. The funeral was devastating, and to make matters worse, my brother and I didn't have any other relatives. No aunts, no uncles, no grandparents. Yeah, that's right. I was all alone with the crazy boy who made my life a living nightmare while growing up. And do you want to know what my brother said to me while I cried on the way home? Good riddance. They were so annoying anyway. Oh boy, I couldn't believe he could be so twisted. I got super mad at him and told him to stop talking if he didn't have anything nice to say. And I had no choice but to move in with him. Only now, he wasn't a boy any longer. He was a man, and a mean one too. He was what you would call a psychopath. He would sometimes be really nice to me, but only when he wanted to get me to do something for him. But he made a relatively good living and could support me, so I had to put up with his cruelty. When I graduated high school, I managed to earn a half scholarship, which meant that I had to take student loans in order to actually go to college. I couldn't just move out and live in the campus dorms, because I simply didn't have enough money to afford it. What did that mean? I was stuck with my older brother, even if I was old enough to actually leave his house. I told myself that the second I got a good job, I'd move away. He offered to help me pay my debt, which I found super odd. I asked him what the catch was, and Taylor told me that he just wanted me to introduce him to my cute college friends. Believe me, I absolutely refused. I didn't want any of my friends to be used by my brother and mistreated like I was. Imagine what they would say to me. I mean, sure, at first, Taylor comes across as super charming and handsome, but when you get to know him better, all the lies come crumbling down. And then, he would begin acting super mean toward them. I'd lose friends because of his attitude. So no, I couldn't say yes to his offer. Still, when summer came around, I was in dire need of a break, and my brother, surprisingly, offered to invite me on a trip to Hawaii. It was super rare for him to be so nice, but I figured that it couldn't do much harm to just say yes and try to spend as much time away from him as possible. I wanted to hit the beach and relax on the sand, so I said yes, and he seemed eerily happy. That was never, ever a good sign. But he continued acting super nice toward me, and the trip there was peaceful, so I figured maybe my brother was trying to make amends. The second our plane landed in Hawaii, I fell in love with the island. It was such a peaceful, beautiful land, and I couldn't wait to enjoy my first vacation in such a long time. We had a surprisingly fun time, and Taylor was super nice toward me every single day. We partied on the beach, and he even bought me a few cute dresses. I couldn't believe how well everything was going. Maybe my brother was finally changing his ways? Perhaps he felt bad about everything he had put me through and was trying to make it up to me? Since he was the only family I had left, I wanted to believe that was possible. I had always wished that my older brother was loving and supportive, but that had never happened before. Not until then, at least. The good times would soon end, though, as I finally realized what his plan was all along. I was sunbathing one day, using one of the cutest bikinis I owned. In fact, Taylor had insisted I used it, telling me, "You look so beautiful in it, sis. You shouldn't hide behind baggy clothes. Show some confidence." I thought that was really sweet of him. I had always been kind of self-conscious, though people often told me I was beautiful. I guess it was a consequence of losing my parents while I was still in high school. Or perhaps all of the cruel pranks Taylor had pulled on me. Just when I began to believe that my brother was really changing his ways, I noticed he was speaking to this group of people. They kind of looked like a family, and a really wealthy one. They were dressed to the nines, even on the beach. They were all tan and gorgeous, and I hadn't seen my brother speaking to them during our vacations. I was a bit confused, and something about the way Taylor spoke to them worried me. So I walked over to him when the family left and confronted him about it. "Hey Taylor, who are those people?" I asked, giving him a suspicious look. And that's when he told me those insane words that would change my life forever. "You already know what they are. Gwen, sis, that's your new family. I sold you to them for $50,000. Believe me, I went pale with anger. I began screaming at him, telling Taylor that he couldn't just sell me. He just shrugged and rolled his eyes at me, as if I was being unreasonable. "Gwen, you have student debts, and I have issues of my own. I can't keep supporting you forever. They are looking to adopt a daughter because they only have boys. But they don't want a girl since it's too much work. They want someone just like you," my brother explained. I was so mad at him. I totally refused, but he told me that the family had paid for our plane tickets and hotel expenses after seeing my picture a few weeks ago. "So that's why you invited me here?" I screamed at him. And Taylor just nodded, as if it was completely normal. I pleaded with him not to do this, tried to convince him it was too insane even for him. He had already made up his mind, though, and wasn't changing it. The very next day, we met up with this family and they gave him a briefcase filled with money. I couldn't believe what was going on. I was so mad at them as well and refused to speak to either my new mom and dad, as well as my so-called siblings. Bit by bit, though, I began to notice how nice and sweet they were. They never mistreated me and bought me all kinds of gifts. They really only wanted me to be part of their lovely family, nothing else. Plus, the mom who was called Barbara kind of reminded me of my own mother. She took me out to dinner often with the rest of the family and bought me beautiful dresses. Believe it or not, I ended up falling in love with the eldest son of the family, Ryan. He was such a gentleman, and we dated for a while before he asked me to marry him. I thought maybe Barbara and her husband would be mad at us, but their reaction stunned me. Oh my God, I can't believe it. We are so happy for you guys. The wedding will be amazing, they both squealed, and believe me, I was incredibly relieved. You'll let me help you plan the wedding, right? Asked Barbara. I've always wanted to help my daughter choose her gown, cake, and guest list, but I never thought I would get to. I never spoke to my brother Taylor again. He wasn't invited to my wedding, and I blocked his number from my phone when he tried to text me, asking for money. He means nothing to me now, and I have a new, lovely family that actually cares about me. I'm surprisingly glad that Taylor decided to sell me for $50,000 because it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, I'm married to the sweetest guy in the world, and my new parents are so supportive of everything I do. They even paid off my student loans, and I got to graduate with honors. Thanks for watching. What's the worst thing your brother or sister ever did to you? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and check out other videos on the channel.
Hi, my name is Louisa, and you won't believe it, but I and my twin sisters were switched at birth with another pair of identical siblings. I know it sounds super messed up, and I wish I could say it was only a bad joke, but it's really not. I'd love to tell you all about my story, hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone recognizes something similar happening to them. Growing up, my life seemed super normal. I got along amazingly with my twin sister. We did everything together and had so much in common. It was as if we were joined at the hip, like many siblings in our situation. But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button, and activate the notification bell. This will let you live 20 amazing years longer. Trust me, it works. We looked just like each other, exactly like two drops of water. The same long blonde hair and pale skin and green eyes. Now, that's where things get super weird. You know why? Because neither of my parents are blonde, and they have dark eyes. So you might be thinking to yourself, that doesn't prove a thing. Perhaps a grandmom or granddad has those traits, and the gene just skipped a generation, or maybe 2 or 3. And yeah, that's possible. That's why, as a kid, I never thought this fact was too odd. After all, it could happen. That being said, we didn't look like anyone else in our extended family, and this did seem to concern my mom and dad, even though they didn't let us know about it. Why should they be worried when Dad was there at the hospital when my mother was giving birth to us? After all, he saw the nurse bathe us and put the little bracelet around our wrists, identifying us like their daughters, right? Well, no. And that's where things get messy. Mom's labor was really bad. There were lots and lots of complications. Let me tell you that. Her blood pressure suddenly spiked one night. As I'm not sure if you know anything about pregnancy and childbirth, this is super dangerous for both the baby and the mother, especially during the 3rd trimester. When that happens, the doctors call it preeclampsia. You might not think it sounds too dangerous, but believe me, it can ruin everything. Mom began noticing her face and hands were so much more swollen than normal, even for pregnancy. She got these terrible headaches and began seeing spots. When she began struggling to breathe, my dad rushed her to the ER. When the nurse took her pressure, they noticed it was crazy high. She had to be hospitalized that very instant. This could cause the placenta to separate from her uterus, lead to the baby being stillborn, and it also has a whole list of terrible problems for the mom as well. So yeah, as I said, it was a mess. The problem was, my mom was only 30 weeks along. There were still 8 to 10 weeks left for my sister and me to be ready to be born. The doctor explained that they needed to do a C-section immediately, and Mom desperately wanted to wait. They couldn't convince her otherwise, and she was hospitalized for an entire week. She couldn't even stand up from her bed. It was then that the situation grew so dire that Mom had no choice but to agree to the surgery. Her babies, that would be my sister and myself, would have to stay a long time in NICU before we got to go home. My mom was devastated, but there was nothing she could do to change this fact. Now, you might be wondering what happened next. During the surgery, my mom's heart stopped beating. It's something that very, very rarely happens during these kinds of procedures, but Mom was one of the few unlucky ones. Freaking out, Dad stayed with her instead of following the nurse with his 2 twin girls. That's where whatever went wrong occurred. No one knows what happened during those few minutes, but when my dad finally realized he had to go be with us, we were already in our special cribs, covered in pulse oximeters, nasogastric tubes, and umbilical catheters. Not a pretty sight. Dad noticed there was another pair of twins there as well, along with another few preemie babies. He didn't think much at the moment, of course, but looking back, he wishes he had asked about it. He was told that we were his babies, and he didn't even think about doubting this fact. We were so tiny and vulnerable, and all he wanted to do was protect us. We were in there for over a month, and it wasn't easy breezy either. My sister had to go through a surgery, and I stopped breathing twice, but was always brought back by the amazing nurse who worked there. In the end, though, Mom and Dad got to take Sierra and me home, and they've always told us that was the happiest day of their lives. Yeah, our mom and dad were awesome and super loving. They called us their miracle babies, and we felt so special because of this. At first, we were kind of sheltered. I'm not going to lie. Mom was so worried something would end up happening to us. She had been so lucky once. She didn't want to risk the odds a second time. But as we grew strong and happy, she realized it was best to let us play outside and make new friends. It was healthy for us. Now, even though they were super happy to have us in their lives, they did joke how different we looked from everyone in our family. At first, they did joke a bit about the possibility of us having been switched by other twin preemies. They thought it was funny, at least at first. After a while, Mom began feeling uncomfortable about the joke for some reason. Like, she had a bad feeling about it every single time she spoke of the subject. So, she decided to let go of this issue and pretend she wasn't worried about it at all. She adored us and didn't want anything to get in the way of raising us. Honestly, if you ask me, I think that maybe she sort of knew, or at least really suspected it was possible. But she denied this fact, even to herself, because the truth was too horrible. Mom and Dad never showed us anything but love. We were their children, and they treated us as such. Now, the thing is, the more we grew, the less and less we looked like them. We had these big blonde curls and cute blue eyes. Mom and Dad were olive-skinned and had very dark hair. Even our noses, our lips, and face shape were so totally different. People began asking if we were adopted, but Mom and Dad brushed off those remarks. They just replied that a great-grandmother must have been a beautiful blonde woman. Like I said, as far as my research goes, no, there wasn't any such relative. When we turned 15, the truth of the matter was my sister and I had questions. So many questions. And my parents were finally ready to face the music. So they said that we should take a DNA test and finally clear the air. If we were their biological children, we'd drop the issue for good. If not, well, we'd take it from there. The test results took over 3 weeks to arrive. I've never been more nervous, believe me. My sister and I held hands while my mom opened the letter. Her hands were trembling. It was that moment that I realized she was really worried that we wouldn't be her biological daughters, and that she had been asking this question to herself from the moment they brought us home. My mom read the results out loud, and it turned out we weren't their biological children. Imagine the shock on everyone's faces. The kitchen was super quiet for a full minute until my mom finally began sobbing. My sister and I rushed to her and hugged her tightly. We kept on telling her, "Mom, we love you. You'll always be our mother, no matter what that paper says." After everyone calmed down, we decided as a family that we'd research the issue further. First, Mom and Dad went to the hospital. It was there that we must have been switched while Dad was too distracted with Mom's condition to follow behind us. He really blamed himself for what happened, but we told him he had nothing to feel bad about. The hospital got super defensive and told them that they were in no way responsible for it. Imagine that big man in a crisp suit claiming that they were on the clear and we must have been the ones who messed up somehow. Yeah, that won't stand. My mom and dad hired a lawyer to sue the hospital, and they'll be forced to admit their mistake and make amends. But that didn't give us any immediate answers. So dad hired a PI to research all the information he could. This means finding the other families who had twins during that period of time, in that specific hospital. This will take some time because none of the info is public, and there were many steps to take before the data is actually released. We hope that in time all the answers will be given to us, but we know that we need to be patient about it. Mom and dad want to know what happened to their biological children, but they also don't want us to think that they love us any less. We know that, of course. No matter what we discover in the future, for me and Sierra, mom and dad will always be exactly that. Mom and dad. We would like to meet our biological parents, though, to know what they are like, and perhaps to create some kind of connection with the people who brought us into this world. Plus, I'm very curious about these other two twins. In a way, I sort of feel like they are our siblings. Not by blood, of course, but my mom and dad are their biological parents and vice versa. Perhaps they are all wonderful people and we can extend the family. My mom and dad totally deserve to meet their real children. I don't feel threatened by their existence because I know full well that my parents will never stop loving me and my sister. Sierra is freaking out a bit more than I am, but she's still eager to discover more information about this other family. To this day, the search continues. We did settle with the hospital out of court, and they gave us a big payoff. The problem is, they don't keep records after 10 or 11 years of any incident, so it's impossible to know the names of the other babies born that day. The PI is hopeful he'll manage to eventually make some progress, but so far, there hasn't been any good news. I can't help but wonder how different my life would have been if my sister and I went home with our biological families. Would they have been as loving as our mom and dad? Would we have been happy? There are so many what-ifs running in my mind. Sierra isn't quite as eager to discover anything else about this whole mess. She was so shocked about the DNA test that I don't think she has been able to get over it yet. I think in time, she'll begin feeling the same way I did, but I can't be sure. Thanks for watching. Would you want to meet your biological parents if you discovered that you were adopted? Let us know in the comments. Please don't forget to subscribe and check out the other videos on the channel.
Don't get me wrong, I love my sister. We're twins, and there is a special connection between us. But she annoys the hell out of me. I'm super jealous of her, and I don't know how to handle it any longer. You see, we aren't identical twins, just regular old twins. So that means that though we kind of look similar, some stuff is different, and that makes her so much better than me. I'm not saying I'm ugly or anything of the sort, but Emma is hot as hell. She's so good looking, her body is so much better than mine, and she even has a smaller nose than I do. It's so annoying that she gets the best part of everything, you know? But before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button and activate the notification bell. This will let you live 20 amazing years longer. Trust me, it works. Emma was even the smarter one among the two of us. Can you believe it? If she was the prettiest, shouldn't I be the brightest one? Yeah, but I'm not. So nature is kind of not fair at all. Of course, since Emma is that much prettier and so confident, she has lots of friends at school and is super popular. She is head of the cheer squad and can be a bit of a mean girl if I have to be honest. Though she is very loving and sweet toward me, she's so irresponsible sometimes that it seems she completely disregards my feelings. I have always been so jealous of everything she has that I don't, and even my parents seem to like her better. I know that's probably not true, and it's just my insecurity playing tricks on me, but I still can't take that feeling off my shoulders. We love you both the same, Ava darling, my mom reassures me and hugs me tightly. You're both our princesses. How could we play favorites? My dad always added, but I still felt the same way as I always did. Emma had it all. As we grew up, she always wore the prettiest dresses, and since her hair was super smooth, it always looked so tidy and pretty. I usually tied my hair in a simple ponytail because it was usually pretty messy. It was easier to just throw it back and put a scrunchie around it, you know? She was always picked up first during sports class because she was super athletic. I felt so left out. I hated ending up on the other team. She usually won, and that meant she got to make her victory dance, which was super annoying and made me so mad at her. Yeah, as you can see, I'm a bit insecure and she's a tiny bit competitive. Or a lot competitive, whatever. The thing is, She's always winning and loves that fact, and I envy her for that, which makes our relationship super complicated. Since we're twins, we were born on the very same day and celebrate our birthday together. Maybe I'm crazy, but I always felt like she was getting better gifts than I did, every single year. At school, Emma would pick up new subjects so quickly. You wouldn't believe it. She had to study so little, and the homework took her almost no work at all. She just did it in a half an hour or something and had the rest of the day left to chat with her friends and practice her routines for the squad. I usually did well at school, but I did struggle with a few subjects. And Emma wouldn't help me with studying, making up excuses unless I asked it the way that she wanted me to. I always had to say, "Pretty please," with a cherry on top, "would the best sister in the world help me?" Yeah, those were the exact words. It was super annoying. She liked to mess with me, and I would rather study harder all on my own than have to admit that she was so much better and let her gloat. Now, things began to really get worse when we entered high school. Emma was so used to getting everything she wanted that she didn't care who got hurt in the process. She did feel bad afterward when it came to me. But the thing is, she still did it. First enjoy, then feel guilt, So this guy, Kevin, began flirting with me one day. I thought he was the cutest guy ever, and I loved hanging out with him. We went out for a date and had the best time ever. We even ended up kissing. I felt like I could end up eventually falling in love with him. That was until Kevin met my sister, Emma. He was starstruck and couldn't take his eyes away from her. Emma began to flirt with him super openly, and they ended up spending most of the day together. I couldn't believe it. When we went back home, I confronted her, super angry about what she had done. "You knew I liked Kevin. Why would you flirt with him that way?" I snapped, shaking my head in disappointment. "You know I flirt with everyone, so don't take it seriously, silly. I'm not going to steal him away from you or anything." She replied like it was no big deal. "But he won't be interested in me anymore, and I hate the fact that he blew me off completely to hang out with you," I replied. "Well, now you're being too sensitive. Get over it, okay?" she told me, and believed me when I said I refused to speak to her for weeks after that. Emma never apologized, but she didn't speak to Kevin again, so I guess I took it as a signal that she was at least trying, So that's why I eventually forgave her. But I try never, ever to introduce any of the guys I like to her, just in case it happens again. Also, Emma got to date the high school's cutest guy. He was the captain of the football squad and every single girl wanted to be with him. So naturally, it was my sister who got him. That didn't mean that she didn't continue to flirt innocently with other guys, simply to get their attention and continue being super popular. It also helped that she was super hot and worked out all the time. This gave her a kicking body, and she posted an insane amount of photos to IG. This made her a fairly popular IG model, and of course, that meant she always had more money to spare than I did. Talk about something else in which she was so much better than me. All of this might seem super silly, but my sister's irresponsible behavior goes way beyond just flirting and being kind of mean. You see, for our 16th birthday, my parents decided to give each of us our own cars. Yeah, super generous. My parents are awesome, and I love them a whole lot, even if I feel like I'm not their favorite. Anyways, it didn't take Emma even 3 months to get into a car accident, and her vehicle was absolutely wrecked. My parents were super mad at her and refused to let her drive for over a month. But after that happened, they decided to give her a second chance. The thing is, they didn't feel she deserved a second car, so they cut a deal with my sister. "You can drive Ava's car, but only when she's not using it. So you better be extra nice to your sister or you'll be taking the bus every day." During this time, the truth was Emma was so much nicer toward me, and I liked getting along with her better. Plus, I didn't want her to miss out just because I was the one who still had the car. So I planned out a schedule. We both had certain times we could use the car, and even though I did get to use it a bit more because it was indeed my car to begin with, I was pretty fair about it. Now, during a few months, this worked perfectly. She was super nice towards me and we were getting along well. She even helped me get dressed for a date with a guy I liked. My sister is super good at fashion, so she had me looking amazing. But one night, believe it or not, she called me all of a sudden, during her turn to use the car. I could tell she was crying, and I got super worried immediately. "Emma, what's going on?" I asked, truly concerned. I mean, I'm jealous of my sister, but I still love her more than anything. "I got into an accident, Emma. I need you to help me," she pleaded, but I could tell she was using her fake, sad voice straight away. I asked what was really going on, and with a sigh, she admitted that she had been drinking and wrecked my car. She was fine, but the car was not. She wanted me to help her talk to Mom and Dad so they wouldn't be super mad at her. Oh, you can't believe how many bad names I called her that night. I was so mad, more than ever before. "You are so selfish and cruel. It was my car, and you didn't even care. And now you want me to cover for you with Mom and Dad? Why aren't you concerned about me and my feelings?" I asked, really mad. She seemed annoyed that I was mad at her and hung up on me. She then called Mom and Dad and tried to play the innocent, scared girl with them. It worked, but they were still super cross with her. Believe me. I couldn't understand how she could be so incredibly reckless and mean toward me. I tried so hard to be nice to her and even lent her my car more than I should have, and that was the way that she repaid me. This meant that we both had to catch rides from friends or take the bus, and it was really annoying. It was all her fault, and I was the one who was suffering because of her irresponsible behavior. The worst part was that when I complained to my parents about it, they actually decided to get us a new car, but one for both of us. We had to share it, and I was so mad about this fact. I mean, can you believe it? She was the one messing up with our cars. She was the one who wrecked 2 vehicles, and I got to use this new car as much as she did. When I told them how unfair it was, you know what they replied? "Try and be more understanding. She's your sister, and you shouldn't be competing with her all the time." Yes, they actually said that. I was shocked. My sister didn't feel bad about anything she had done, and that annoyed me even further. I haven't been speaking to my sister too much in these past few weeks, and I don't think our relationship will improve unless she learns to apologize. Thank you for watching. Have you ever dealt with a sister or brother who you're jealous of? Let us know in the comments. Please don't forget to subscribe and check out our other videos on the channel.
Have you ever felt so happy you didn't know what to do? Like there was so much joy and you just wanted to scream because, well, what else was there to do? I was having the best Friday ever. I couldn't believe she smiled at me and gave me her number. I've never been bold enough to go after what I want, if you know what I mean. But I gazed at Emma during Mr. Hellman's boring literature class. I felt a spark and an urge to just send her a note. It said, "Hey, I can't stop staring at you. I've liked you for a while. Can I have your number?" I expected her to just throw it away, but she sent one back. "I feel the same way." And she wrote her number at the bottom. I took out my cell phone and sent her a message right away just to make sure she wasn't kidding. She replied with a smiley face, then turned around and smiled at me, so I was sure it was her. As I walked home, I felt like dancing through the street. I opened my door and shouted, "I'm home, what's for dinner?" "Well, guess what? I don't need food because I'm in love." They all looked at me and rolled their eyes. "Hi, Kevin," said Gloria. Gloria and Chelsea are my older twin sisters. They're so identical that only my mom and I can tell them apart. They have black hair and mysterious green eyes, just like my mom. I have red hair and blue eyes, sort of like Chucky, but a little more handsome. When I was about 5 years old, my dad left, and I haven't seen him since. It's been just the 4 of us. I guess I'm the man of the house now. I walked over to the dining room table where my sisters were seated, playing some weird type of board game. "What are you so excited about?" Gloria asked. "Well, it seems that the love of my life actually likes me back," I replied. "Yeah, and I'm a bowl of tomato soup," Chelsea laughed. "No, guys, I'm serious. This girl I've been crushing on since 6th grade actually gave me her number and smiled at me," I replied. "That means nothing," scowled Gloria. They both looked upset. I tried not to read into it too much since girls are like that sometimes. I forgot about dinner and went straight to my room to text Emma. I asked her if she'd like to go to watch a movie with me the next day. She agreed, and I didn't think the day could get any better. I went back downstairs to throw it in my sisters' faces. "I'm going to watch a movie with Emma tomorrow night. You still think she doesn't like me? I laughed. They exchanged a quick glance, and Gloria looked at me with a mischievous grin. We have a big enough TV here. Why don't you just invite her over so we can all meet her? At the time, I didn't think that was a bad idea. I didn't have money to take her out anyway. I quickly texted her to see if she would agree to the change in plans. Surprisingly, she didn't seem nervous at all. She didn't hesitate to say yes. Did she really like me that much? Flash forward to Saturday morning. I woke up to Gloria's gentle tugging at my shoulders. Hey, bro, wake up. We've decided that it's Little Brother Appreciation Day, she said. What? I replied, rubbing my eyes. Here, we brought you breakfast in bed. It's your favorite. Pancakes, bacon, and many other things, said Chelsea. Is it my birthday? Did I forget? I said. I thought that I was still dreaming. They placed a platter of all my favorite foods on my bed. I picked up a glass of orange juice and spilled a little on my pillow. Don't worry, I'll get that for you. Gloria jumped up right away and wiped it with a napkin. After I enjoyed my breakfast, they wiped my mouth and took the empty tray away. We'll be back in a while. We're just going to finish all your laundry and do your chores. Then we'll clean your room and maybe give you a pedicure. Chelsea grinned as they walked away. I was very confused, but happy. I mean, who wouldn't be? My whole life, I've referred to them as the evil twin sisters because they always leave everything for me to do. I got out of bed, showered, and got ready for the exciting day ahead. It was only 10 o'clock, but I couldn't wait for 6 o'clock when Emma would finally be here. I sat down and got started on my math homework. After a few excruciating minutes of math problems, Chelsea and Gloria walked in with some scented candles and massage oils. Ladies, have you lost your minds? I asked. No, we're bringing the spa to your room. We told you that today is all about you. You've done enough homework. We'd like you to relax for the rest of the day, Gloria replied. They led me to my bed and asked me to lie down. After a while, my room smelled like apple cinnamon cookies, and I felt so relaxed that I almost forgot all about Emma. After about half an hour of the best massage I have ever experienced in my life, my sisters left the room and I fell asleep, but only for a few minutes. No, I forgot to ask Emma if we're still on tonight. I looked around my room. It was the cleanest it had ever been. What had gotten into my sisters? I quickly called Emma, and she said she'd be a little late because she had to pick her little brother up from karate class. I went to the living room and sat on the couch between my sisters. They quickly handed me the remote and told me I could choose whatever I wanted. This was weird too because they never let me watch what I want. Gee guys, I'm having such a great day. This date with Emma is going to make things even more perfect, I said. The twins looked annoyed. Do you really need her to come over though? It's going to ruin everything we've planned for you, Chelsea answered harshly. Again, I didn't read into this too much because, like I said, girls are strange sometimes. At 6 o'clock, my heart began racing. I knew Emma said she'd be late, but at least she'd be here soon. Finally, the doorbell rang. I jumped up and ran to the door. My sister stood behind me even though I motioned for them to leave the room. Hi, Emma. Thanks for coming, I said nervously. Thanks for having me over, she smiled. Hi, Emma, my sisters said together. They all went to the living room together. The snacks were already prepared, so we just had to choose a movie. Hey, Kevin, why don't you choose the movie? Chelsea and I want to talk to Emma about something, said Gloria. Okay, I replied. They were gone for at least 10 minutes, but when they came back, Emma looked a bit startled. Are you okay? I said to Emma. Yes, I'm fine, she replied. She looked scared, but I tried not to overthink. Luckily, my sisters left us alone for a while. We held hands, and when it was time for her to leave, I tried to kiss her goodbye, but she wouldn't let me. I guessed it was too early. The next week at school was even more confusing. On Monday morning, as I was opening my locker, Emma walked up to me and quietly said, Hey, Kevin, I'm sorry I didn't let you kiss me. I was trying to process everything, and I wasn't sure whether we should be together. But I've thought about it, and I'm willing to be with you even though you have a serious disease. I really like you, and it doesn't matter to me, she said. A serious what? I replied. A disease. I can't remember the name, but your sisters told me when I came over on Saturday night. They said you were too afraid to tell me, and you asked them to instead, she said. What? I began speaking, but before I could finish, she interrupted me. What I'm trying to say, Kevin, is that it doesn't matter to me. I care about you, and I won't let this disease get in the way, she finished. I was unable to say anything, so I just nodded. I grabbed my books, went to class, and pretended that everything was fine. When I got home that afternoon, I went straight to my sister's bedroom to find out what was going on. I didn't even bother to knock. I just barged right in. "You told Emma that I have an incurable disease?" I bellowed. They looked at me with puzzled eyes, and then Chelsea calmly said, "Kevin, come closer. Sit down. We have something very serious to talk to you about." I did as she asked, but really, I just wanted to stifle them with their pillows. "We know a lot about Emma, a lot that you don't know, and this is why we were a bit upset when we found out you'd be seeing each other. I don't really know how to break this to you, Kevin, but Emma is crazy. She's been to many psychologists for her issue, but nobody really knows what to do or how to help her. I overheard her mother speaking with our principal about it. We think you should stay away from her," said Gloria. "When she came over, you took her away for 10 minutes. What were you talking about?" I asked angrily. "We just told her to take good care of you and not to hurt your feelings, that we will defend you if she does anything wrong to you. We were just looking out for you. We were doing what good sisters should. I mean, you'd do it for us, wouldn't you?" Gloria replied. "None of this makes sense to me," I said as I walked away. After I had calmed down a bit, I sent a message to Emma. It read, "Why did you make up that story about my sisters? Of all the stupid things you could have done to me, this is the worst. I care about my family, and you're trying to ruin us." "I'm not making up anything. Did you talk to your sisters?" she replied instantly. "Yes, I did. And all I found out is that you're nothing but a liar. And to think I actually liked you," I replied and slammed my phone on my desk. I was so angry. I thought I had met the girl of my dreams, but she turned out to be a dishonest psycho. I stayed alone in my room for the rest of the night while drowning in my depressing thoughts. The next day, school went by in a blur, until the few minutes before my last class. Emma approached me, and I had to admit that she looked really sad. Her hair was in a mess, and she looked like she hadn't slept. "Kevin, I know you don't want to talk to me, but just listen to this." She pulled out her phone and put it next to my ear. It was a recording of her speaking to the twins. It went like this. "Emma, why did you lie and tell Kevin I was crazy? You told me he had a disease, then you lied to make it seem like everything was wrong with me. Is he even sick? Gloria, Kevin is mine, and I'm not going to share him. I made up all these stories to stop you from becoming his girlfriend. I can tell you this now because he already believes you're crazy and wants nothing to do with you. Emma, he's your brother. What do you mean you want him? Gloria, he's the only boy I've ever loved, and we will be together forever. Now go to hell. Chelsea, Kevin is mine, and I don't really want to share with you, Gloria. You're always trying to get your way. We've shared everything in the past, but I want him for myself. Kevin loves me more. I've always been his favorite anyway. Gloria, shut up. Kevin is mine. The rest of the recording was distorted and noisy. It seemed like the girls had gotten into a fight and Emma left them to continue alone. I was shocked beyond belief. I couldn't think, so I dropped everything I was holding and sat on the floor. I pinched myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. It all made sense now. This is why they were being so nice to me. Emma calmly sat next to me. It's fine. I forgive you, but I don't think I can be with you because this situation is too messy. She stood up and walked away. That night was certainly the weirdest night of my entire life. After confronting my sisters and getting into a huge fight, my mom came between us and explained the truth. Apparently, I was adopted and that this is why I look nothing like my family. My mom and dad took me in to raise me into the man they'd want to marry my sisters. My father eventually realized this was a crazy idea and he left the dysfunctional family. My mom explained that because she took me in, I would have to repay her by eventually marrying the twins. I had lost the girl of my dreams, and now my family.